Talk about bringing a knife to a gunfight, huh? Honda CBR650R versus R7? Really?
Hey man, I got more power, 94 ponies under this hood.
You've also got more weight.
Yeah, but
a lot more weight.
This thing's gonna be faster than that.
What kind of sport bike weighs 460 pounds?
A good one.
A good one?
Yeah, this is a great little bike right here.
This is the VFR guy talking over here. Typical Honda stuff.
Dude, I got the inline 4 soundtrack. You can't deny that that is pure quintessential sport bike.
This one's better, dude. This bike is better. The power, the bark that this thing has.
But it's just a little parallel twin.
What's going on with Honda and GP?
We don't like to talk about that.
You don't want to talk about Honda and GP?
Mark's coming back.
What about Superbike? What answers from the Honda crowd here?
We have a really cool Superbike that you can buy on the showroom floor.
Look, guys, I think we need to make a video and suss out if the R7 is in fact better than the CBR650R. Let's find out. Alrighty folks, this one has been a long time coming. It has actually been pretty hard to get a hold of a Honda CBR650R, but we've seen so many comments telling us we have to compare this here Yamaha R7 to the Honda CB650R because we've just been neglecting it and not saying how cool and good it is, and that we clearly need to bring this bike in to compare against the R7, right, Spite?
Yeah, we have gotten inundated with many interesting comments saying that this bike needs to make an appearance, and we finally found one. A Discord boy up in Leander was able to lend this motorcycle to us for the day so that we could make this here comparison. I'm sure he's pulling for Team Honda.
Yeah, big shout out to him. Thank you so much. And this Yamaha R7, as you guys know, is one of our beginner bike giveaway motorcycles. You can hit the link down below to yamanoob.co, become a Discord boy like this gentleman over here, and get yourself access to win this motorcycle. You're not going to want to miss it. You get access to the Discord, behind the scenes stuff, all kinds of exclusive content. It's a great time on the Discord.
Now before we hit the road on these two bikes, I need to take a second and shout out our sponsor for today's video, Cardo. They're the biggest name in motorcycle comm systems, and that's for a good reason. They've got great range, battery life, and JBL speakers, so you can get high quality music delivered right to your earballs, whether you're rolling down the interstate or your favorite twisty road. They've got systems with a bunch of different features at a wide range of prices, so you can find the unit that fits your needs best. Click that link down below and check out everything Cardo has to offer.
Alright, so I brought the Honda in here first because everybody wants to talk about the bigger, faster bike first, right? I mean, this is so cool. It's red, it's flashy, and it's packing a 649cc inline 4, putting down 94 horsepower and 47 foot-pounds of torque. It is a little bit heavier than the R7 at 456 pounds wet and ready to ride, and it doesn't have fully adjustable suspension. But what it does have is a nice set of Showas up front that are really well sprung and a preload adjustable shock here in the back. It's a little bit more expensive at $9,699, but you know what? You get what you pay for. And Big Red, they are reliable. This bike is unstoppable, and it will last for like 100,000 miles or until the heat death of the universe, basically. Now, the best part about this motorcycle for this comparison is it is all day comfortable. You get on this motorcycle and the 32-inch seat height on here is really nice and amenable. It feels very low compared to other sport bikes. And the reach of the bars, it is super crazy comfortable. I could sit here all day, every day, and not feel it at all. But let's get Yam in here to sit on this motorcycle and hear what his thoughts are.
Gotta check out the ergos on this Honda, right?
Come on, man. You gotta see how comfortable it is.
All right, let's see. Swinging a leg over the CBR650R, which in case you guys didn't know, we did a CB650R back in the day as a giveaway bike, and the ergos here are pretty similar to that motorcycle, even though that one had a handlebar and was a little more naked. Reach to the bar, very nice. Seat height pretty low for what it is. I do feel the mass a little bit on this bike, I'm not gonna lie. The peg height is really, really comfortable as well. This is a bike that you could very easily put down 300-400 miles in a day on, not really feel any type of way about. At 5'11", with a 32-inch inseam, this bike fits me really, really nicely. It's a little long for my taste, I will say. I would expect the sport bike to be a little stumpier and a little lower down, but Honda designed it as a very versatile, all-around motorcycle that you can have some fun, sporty adventures with. But let's compare it against a proper sport bike in the form of the R7. All right, guys, if you've been watching the YamiNoob channel for a little bit, you know the deal. This is Yamaha's R7, which is basically an MT-07 cosplaying as a sport bike, but Yamaha's done some pretty cool things to this bike to differentiate it from the MT-07. You got fully adjustable suspension, front and rear, clip-ons, full fairings, a lightweight versus a CBR650R at 407 pounds, wet and ready to ride, and the almighty bark of that CP2 engine. You're working with 689 cc's, about 75 horsepower, and 50 foot-pounds of torque. That's going to hit way low in the RPM, and as you guys know, this thing's a bit of a wheelie monster, as all the MT bikes are. This thing's a ton of fun to ride, and although it's not an R6, it is still a very fun and usable everyday sport bike, despite the ergonomics being a little more challenging than most other kind of entries in this category in the terms of the Ninja 650, the RS660, and the CBR650R. As I mount up on this motorcycle here, swinging a leg, you can tell that immediately handlebars is way lower, foot peg is a little bit higher, you're a little bit more in the pocket here, and this bike is just gonna be a very commanding stance whenever you're out having fun on your favorite twisty road. Now let's bring in Spite and see how he mounts up on this motorcycle.
All right, let's see how it fits.
And through movie magic, there he is.
The little tinker toy here.
Yeah.
Not as good as the Honda.
Makes more torque than your Honda.
So mounting up on this thing at 6'4" and about 240 pounds with a 34-ish inch inseam in my boots, this thing feels way different. It feels like it's a lot more committed despite still being a street sport motorcycle. Getting my foot up on the peg, you can really feel the difference in what these are meant to do. And it really does translate on the road. But I don't know, for my kind of riding, I like the nice, comfortable feeling on the Honda. In fact, I'm starting to miss it a little bit. I kind of want to go sit on the Honda again.
It's because you're soft. Now let's get out on the road. Alrighty, Spite. Commanding the urban jungle here, are we not?
Yeah, commanding, I suppose, staring at the back of this lovely DHL van.
Yeah. But doing what these two motorcycles are designed to do in part. They are designed to be everyday, bop around city, not city bikes, they're not little Honda, Navis or something like that. They're definitely more sporty, definitely designed with maybe a longer distance commute, some twisty roads in mind, but they need to be able to do this stuff. And since the CBR650R is the star of the show, why don't you tell us what you're feeling?
Honestly, I'm feeling really good. This motorcycle is so comfortable and the reach to the bars is so amenable that I can just sit in this traffic and be totally fine. The seat is nice and wide and it's got plenty of cushion and give to it. And the suspension on this motorcycle, yeah, it's not fully adjustable like what you got over there, but it just eats up these city bumps, no problem. It actually feels really plush.
Yeah, it seems like the CBR650R is a bike that's, Honda's kind of been making for 20 or 30 years in one way or another. You think back about the old Hurricanes, the F4Is, Honda's been making fully fared, kind of, sporty inline four bikes for a long time, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just another feather in their cap. It's one of the things, even the CBR1000RR is kind of like the comfy leader bike.
Yeah.
It's not as comfortable as this, obviously, but it's kind of what Honda does. They make these nice dailyable sport bikes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at you right there, and it doesn't even look like there's much of a bend in your back. You actually look pretty upright for being on a fully naked or a fully fared motorcycle.
Yeah, it's a very comfortable place to be, and there's no pressure on my wrists. It's all on my butt and on my toes. It's where you'd want to be if you're stuck in traffic for a long time on a sport bike. I mean, I can't say the same having been stuck on traffic on the R7.
Yeah, the R7 is much more sharp-nosed, which is funny because if you ride an R7 versus an R6, you feel like it's the most comfortable street bike ever, which is really saying something about the 600cc class. But I gotta know, how does that 649cc inline four feel?
Okay, so I love the soundtrack, right? I wish it was a little bit louder.
Yeah.
The stock pipes on this motorcycle.
I don't think you really got this sound.
No, going up under these bridges, there's nothing special about this exhaust note. But
Yeah.
we did have the CBR, or the CB650R, and once you get a pipe on these things, man, they scream. They sound so good.
Yeah, it's a little unfair because this bike has that full pipe on it. I'm having to kind of lay off the rev so you can speak.
Yeah, no kidding. I remember editing the cacophony that was that video and the Indian. It was a nightmare. Power-wise, though, I do miss the torque that the parallel twin gives us. The parallel twin gives that nice low-down smack of torque right off the jump. In this, you really do have to wind out. It's such a demure engine down low. You really got to take it all the way out to redline to really feel all those 94 ponies.
Well, this is a bit of a weird question, but would you say that makes it a better beginner bike than the R7 because you got to rev it out a little bit more, even though it does make more top-end power?
Honestly, yeah, I think it does. Comparing these two, for the beginner audience, that thing is so lurchy and so just like ready to freaking rip your arms off.
It's snappy, yeah. I mean, that's why I love the R7 and the CP2 platform, but yeah, for beginner riders, it could really catch you off guard. I mean, the thing wheelies in third gear.
Yeah, I mean, so here, let's let this Sprinter van get ahead of us a little bit, and I'm gonna do this. There you go. So I'm at about 5,000 RPM. I mean, it's got a lot of power. Let's not mince words. But then you click up to like 5th gear here, doing 4,000 RPM, hold it wide open, and no one's home.
Whereas 5th gear on this wide open, I'm gonna pick up some speed for sure.
Yeah, you really got to keep this bike in the power band if you want all go, no quit. But I think that kind of makes it a better street bike in that sense, because you don't have to be battling the lurchy throttle. You can, when you want power, you just wait a little bit or you shift a little bit later.
See, I disagree a little bit. I think for me, my choice for a street motorcycle has always been 2 or fewer cylinders and more than 600 or 700 cc's of displacement, because on a street bike, I hate having to shift. I like just smacking on power whenever I want it. It's why I love my desert sled so much, you know? I can just goof around with it. If I'm in 4th gear, just roll on, doesn't matter, you know? So I actually prefer this for a street bike, but yeah, maybe for the beginner, this makes more sense. But it's expensive though, you know? Like,
Is $700 that much more expensive versus this thing though?
yeah, if you spec in a quick shifter on this, it's, you know, only $500 more to get the Honda. So, but, you know, it's way lower weight. It's way more sophisticated with the suspension. The way it feels on the side of the tire. I haven't ridden the Honda yet, but I feel like the R7 is going to just be a ton more nimble and just more fun.
Yeah, but what I will give the Honda here that I actually did end up using a little bit earlier today is traction control. It's got traction control and ABS built in. And it's kind of a wet and crummy day out here. And I was pulling out of the gas station. I hit the throttle a little bit more zealously than I probably would have otherwise. And the rear tire started to spin. And the bike caught it.
No, and that's such a cool feature, especially for the entry-level rider, because like you said, you know, sometimes if you're learning or if you're having an off day, you get that tire slip. It's pretty cool to have a system there waiting to save you, whereas the R7 doesn't have any TC at all.
Yeah, it's all in that right hand. That's a lurchy right hand to have it all in.
So now we have cleared the city. We're approaching some fun roads here in the hills. We're going to see how these stack up against each other in kind of twistier sections. Keep in mind, guys, it is quite damp today, and we're on the street, so there's not going to be any try-hard knee-dragging action going on, so...
Because that's what I'm really known for, right? Is all my try-hard knee drags.
You guys know Spike just loves going to the track every weekend. Let me ask you this. From an ergonomics perspective, one of the coolest things about the R7 is how narrow and small it feels, and we were commenting how the CBR feels a little long, a little heavy. Do you feel like it's wide in the middle because of that inline 4, or how do you feel on it?
That is a good question. It does feel more substantial than the R7 does. between the knees. It feels like, I don't want to say a real motorcycle, but it feels like a bit more like a 600. Yeah, that my knees aren't out like this, like they would be on a 600, but my knees are quite wide, and it feels more substantial. There's more, it feels less toy-like. That's one thing I don't like about the R7 so much, is it does tend to feel a little bit cheap, a little bit plasticky, whereas this feels really put together. I like the Honda build quality here.
Honda's always had that kind of extra edge over Yamaha in the build quality, but it's funny because I feel like we forgive Yamaha's kind of crappy build quality sometimes because their motors are just so good and special, you know? Like, you ride an MT-10, you're like, yeah, it feels a little plasticky, but it sounds like this, you know?
I will say, I do miss the low-down torque of the R7. It is fun to have an inline-4 when you're revving it out, but you have to rev it out. There's no, you know, you have to keep this motor on the boil.
Yeah, I'm in third gear on these twisties, but I feel like if I just, click it up into fourth, I can easily have any torque I need to take these corners, no problem.
But, you know, side to side on these, like, regular street twisties, this bike feels fine, honestly. It doesn't feel vague. It feels like it tips in quick enough for you to have, you know, good weekend fun on it. Is it as, like, razor sharp as the R7? No. But I don't feel like I'm missing a lot by having the slightly more vague suspension on here.
I feel like because the CBR650R, and you can see it in Honda's press material and all this stuff, they definitely bill it as a street bike. Even though for some reason in the press photos they've got a guy in a full suit dragging me around some canyon road. Not sure why. Maybe that's because, you know, press photos are going to do press photo things. But the R7 is definitely the bike I would rather have on a canyon road, on a twisty road, on a track day. It's just set up just that extra edge better than something like the Honda. So if you are getting into motorcycling and you already have an inkling that you kind of want to go to the track, despite the CBR having a 4-sill and it's a Honda and all this stuff, the R7's really the bike you want, I would say. Again, I have to reserve judgment because I haven't ridden the CBR just yet, but we're about to swap bikes here in a little bit. Oh, I do love that low-end grunt on this bike. It's so nice. Is it a beginner bike, though, man? Like, it's pretty hairy to ride.
This is the prototypical drop a gear and disappear kind of bike.
Yeah.
No one's home below 6,000 RPM.
What's your rev ceiling on that bike?
12,000.
Yeah, I end it right at 10, so I feel like this bike finds the meat of its power band sooner and earlier than that bike there.
This bike is an interesting contraption because I feel like for a street application, it could really benefit from losing a tooth in the front. Maybe just going up 1 or 2 in the rear as opposed.
You feel like the gears are a little long?
Yeah, I feel like they could be shortened just a little bit to make it feel a bit peppier, a little bit more nakedy, you know? And that's a really easy fix and something you can test out if you're checking out one of these motorcycles at home.
I think that's where the R7 does really well because since it does derive from a purely street bike, naked bike setup, the gears are so short and snappy. I'm always in like 1st through 4th gear just cruising around town, and I love that feeling, you know?
Whereas I'm sitting here cruising at 3,000 RPM, and if I want to go fast, I gotta go down a gear.
Well, what do you say we swap out and start comparing notes?
Sounds good, let's do it.
Alrighty folks, we are now on the different motorcycles. I am on the CBR650R, Spite is on the R7. And if I just may say, since the CBR is the star of the show today, this is like R3 levels of ergonomics. I'm so upright. This is literally like Ninja 650, naked bike, like VFR 800. This is not connoting hard-nosed sport bike to me at all.
No, it really doesn't. And getting on this, I feel like I'm, you know, over the front wheel and, you know, super aggressive and in the pocket already, even though I know I'm not.
The other thing I really noticed is the engine characteristic. Obviously, we're going to a buttery smooth inline 4 over the CP2. Wow, there's not a whole lot of mid-range or low-end punch on this bad boy, really.
Yeah, it's really a top-end only motorcycle. It is nice getting back on this and feeling that just easy spread of torque down low. Apparently not enough torque though.
Yeah, this bike just feels a lot less rowdy, a lot less raucous than the R7. And I mean, that kind of goes back to most Honda motorcycles. They're all a little mild-mannered, they're all a little easygoing. Yamahas are always a little bit more hard-nosed.
Yeah, I feel like this bike right here already, it's having more fun out here on a twisty road. You know, going through some of these light corners here, it is having more fun doing the sport bike thing than the Honda is.
I mean, it does weigh, it's like 60 pounds less than this bike, so I could definitely see it being, you know, it's a lot more peppy and effervescent, you know, it just is.
And the handling through the bars, the feeling through the bars is so much nicer. It's more direct, more just, it's literally laser focused. I like that.
I think the way you can really tell how these bikes are different is actually the clip-ons, right? So Honda spec'd in these clip-ons that are actually rising above the triple tree right here, whereas Yamaha actually fitted real sport bike clip-ons on the R7 there. They actually just jut out and they don't actually stick up at all.
Yeah, they go back down low, which is, you know, it feels like your hands are at or below your knees.
I will say, you know, despite the Honda being the machine that's about, you know, $700-ish more expensive, the Yamaha is spec'd with some really quality parts that you'll feel when you ride. Like the bigger Brembo master cylinder feels awesome on that bike.
Yep.
The adjustable suspension's a real treat too. But I think we gotta show the people the acceleration test. What do you think?
Oh yeah, this is what they came here for.
All right, on my third honk.
Yep. I was really expecting my torque to give me more of a jump down low, although I was starting pretty high up at second gear.
One thing I noticed there is the thing you were talking about. The gears on this thing are so long. They're way longer than the R7.
Yeah, they're sky high on that bike.
I think second gear ended for me around 80-something miles an hour.
Mm-hmm. You know, talking about the gearing on that bike, I really do think that gearing it up a little bit in the rear, maybe one or two, maybe three teeth, if you really want to get spicy with it, will really give it more of that upright, naked-y vibe that you might want with such a relaxed riding position.
This reminds me so much of your VFR.
Mm-hmm. It has a lot of that kind of just gentlemanly dad bike quality to it.
Yeah. Which for some people is exactly what they're looking for. Not everyone wants the kind of hard-edged R7 thing. Some people do just want like a super nice, just bop around street bike, you know, no questions asked, easy going type of thing. Gotta get an exhaust on this thing. It's so quiet. Oh my god. It's like a freaking sewing machine.
I do like how just comfy cruisy it is. Like you go over everything, like, you know, you're riding on a cloud almost.
It is like the marketing material says, it is a versatile sport bike, that's for sure. Not as versatile as a Versatile System 650 from Kawasaki, though, we do have to say.
It's pretty goddamn close, though. If you look at the marketing material, they do brag about the 4.1 gallon gas tank on that motorcycle.
Well, the day I see someone dragging knee in a full suit on a Versa 650 is the day I just hang it up, man.
Wow, the torque just immediately on the roll-on is so nice on this bike. One thing I will give the Honda, looking down at the R7's dash and cockpit setup, it's a little wanting. You know, there's wires hanging out everywhere, and the dash is easier to read on this bike, but I don't know, it just doesn't feel as nice. I mean, the CBR is nothing to write home about, but I really find the cockpit view on this motorcycle very unimpressive.
Well, you know, it's the Hondas that have all that refinement and build quality goodness, you know what I mean? Like, the Hondas really do build such a nice motorcycle. Yeah, second gear ends at like 80-something miles an hour.
It is crazy tall on that bike. It is way taller than it has any right to be.
Yeah, it's honestly too tall. Yeah, I would definitely spec in some more aggressive sprockets on this thing.
Ooh, I do appreciate that nice brake feel from the Brembo Master, though. That feels good.
Yeah, you really feel the mass side to side a lot more than the R7. But, man, once this thing picks a line, it's really settled really nicely, honestly. Like, once you get it locked in, it's just like, yep, I'm here. It's totally doable.
I feel like I remember the CB650R being like that.
Yeah, it was really predictable and just like it settled in really nicely. I took it out to the track and I was honestly really impressed with what it was. But I think it does beg the question, is the R7 a little overpriced, you know?
I think it is, honestly.
I think so too, just a bit. I think if it was like $82.99 instead of $89.99, I think that would make more sense. I don't really understand where Yamaha's finding like an extra, it's like $1,200 more than the MT-07, I think. I mean, that can't just be fairings and suspension, right? Like, that's, come on. It's not even top shelf suspension, and the fairings are just fairings.
I feel like in reality, the CBR should probably be about $9 grand, and this should be about 82, like you said.
Yeah, this ergonomics package is, I mean, almost identical to the CBR650R, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Honda, besides the CBR600RR, which they're still making, I think. I think they haven't discontinued it just yet, right? Or have they discontinued it?
To be honest, I do not remember.
I don't remember either, but that would obviously be your very sharp-focused 600 class sport bike. But, yeah, it's kind of cool that Honda has the 500, the 650, and the 600, I guess. All with very different flavors each, you know? But, yeah, this thing's really mild-mannered, I gotta say. Even more so than I had remembered from the CB650R. It's very easygoing.
I really gotta believe that's just down to the gearing. If you altered the gearing a little bit, it would be a lot more zesty.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the more I think about and ride these two bikes, the more I'm kind of like, they're for two very different people.
Yep.
That's why, honestly, I think we've said it on the channel before, because a lot of people are like, oh, you're not considering the CBR650R when you're talking about the R7, because I don't really think there's a lot of cross-shop appeal.
No, the CBR really feels like dad. You know, it's the bike that your dad has, and this is the one that you get when you're young and reckless, you know?
Yeah, definitely. This does not have any reckless or dangerous energy about it, that's for sure.
Does a Honda ever, though, honestly?
The Fireblade did, that's for sure. The Fireblade definitely felt like it was going to rip your freaking arms off. Alright, Spud, I think it's time we get off these two bikes now that we've ridden them around and wrap up our thoughts on these two machines.
Let's do it.
All right, folks, wrapping our day up here with the R7 and the CBR650R, and I think we've come to a conclusion that these two motorcycles are not actually meant to be cross-shopped, right?
No, they're trying to do very different things. This motorcycle here is very laid back. It's a great commuting motorcycle that you could have some fun with on the weekends, as long as you're not looking to really drag knee like the dude in the marketing material.
Yeah, he looked a bit silly doing that on that bike. Yeah, two very different customers for these two motorcycles. It's kind of what we were telling you guys why we didn't really want to compare the CBR650R to stuff like the R7 or the RS660. Although on paper and the name kind of looks and sounds familiar, you really got to ride a motorcycle to know that it's actually trying to do a very, very different thing. So this bike, 50 pounds less, more torque, more snappy, fully adjustable suspension, more race-oriented ergonomics. It's a thoroughbred sport bike, true and true, even though the R6 apologists don't want to admit it. And this motorcycle, as Spite said, is a fantastic commuter, fun street motorcycle. And if it had to do a track day, sure, it could probably do it. It wouldn't be my first choice, certainly not. But yeah, what other thoughts do you have about the CBR650R?
I don't know. I think personally, if I were in the market for a street motorcycle for the kind of riding that I do, this would be the one that I am looking at over this. Be riding them back to back, I could change the gearing on this motorcycle, have it be just as peppy as this, or at least pretty close to it. I could approximate some of that down low torque by having it, you know, rev up a lot faster with some new gears. But I like the comfort. I like the inline-4 soundtrack on it. I like it. It just feels nice and smooth, and it's supple on the street. But if I were doing anything more aggressive than the average weekend ride, I have to go here.
The next point we want to talk about these motorcycles is whether or not they're appropriate for beginner riders. And that's kind of a tough one. So both of these are stretching the definition of a beginner bike for different reasons. This one has a lot of on-snap torque. That one has a lot of top-end power. Which one would you feel more comfortable putting a beginner on?
Honestly, I would go with this one. Compared to the R7, the fact that it's a little bit tamer off the line. Yeah, it's a little bit heavier, but the ergonomics are more forgiving. Getting into that kind of crumpled up sport bike stance can make a motorcycle a lot harder to manage. Whereas it's really easy to get a foot down on. And yeah, it does make more power, but if I was teaching somebody to ride, I'd rather teach them to ride on this.
I agree. Yeah, I think the R7 is a worse beginner bike than the 650 over here, simply because of the points that Spite just made. Again, we think that both are really stretching the definition of a beginner bike. I know that we have put this in our beginner bike giveaway sweepstakes, but that is because we do believe that this is a reasonable beginner motorcycle. I do also have to question whether a beginner rider should go out and purchase a 5-figure Honda 650 as their first motorcycle. Probably not the best since it's going to be dropped, as that one did get dropped.
Yeah, it would be...
Not by us, by the way, but by the owner.
Yeah, it would bring a tear to my eye if I roughed up the plastics on this thing.
Yeah.
I think that if you're really looking for something like this, you got to go into the aftermarket and be a little bit more comfortable paying for a motorcycle that might already be a little bit rashed up.
Yeah.
You got to get some place to start where you don't actually care if you've been it. I would get used as opposed to buying a $9,799 motorcycle.
Yep. That's pre-tax, pre-title, pre-license. So
yeah, that's brutal.
That's a lot of money. So to sum it all up today, if you're the kind of rider looking for a comfortable, fun street motorcycle that still has the classic inline-4 sound, you don't care about performance as much, and you don't mind the increase in price tag, Honda's going to be a perfect bike for you. If you want to go to the track, if you want to have some more fun with your bike, if you want a motorcycle that's really going to teach you how to carve corners, and you don't mean in a more aggressive sport bike position, the R7 is going to be a great pick. So between the two, you can't really pick a winner because it's hard to compare them, but I think that's going to sum up our thoughts for today.
I think the winner is RS660, right?
Yeah. Truth be told, we were talking about this all day off camera, that between these two motorcycles, the RS660 does both things better. It's a better sport bike than the R7. It's a better all-day commuter than the CBR650R. So I guess in the question of R7 versus CBR650R,
RS660.
it's RS660. Once again, it's weird how that keeps happening. Yeah, go get an RS660. We'll catch you in the next one. See you later. We are not paid by Aprilia to say that. For the love of God, don't at me about that. Well, my little squid, you've made it to the end of yet another Yami Noob video. Thank you so much for watching. Just for you, got a little treat for you right over here. Brand new video for you. You can watch it, check it out. There's probably some squidding, some street riding, maybe some track riding. Maybe I'm binning my Ducati off-road. Who knows what's going on in that video? You should probably click on it and find out.